Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. So now I will explain on the process costing. So process costing is one of the specific order costing, which is appropriate for the organizations that produce cost units which are separately identifiable from each other. This process costing is continuous operations that under one of the specific order costing methods. So the other specific order costing methods includes the job, batch, and contract. Okay. So the process costing, it's suitable for a business that produce a high volume of identical product and there are no work in process inventory. So the process costing systems basically involve a few steps. Usually the process costing flow start with the few processes. For example, like process 1, start from the input material or the other component handling, like the direct labor and the overhead. Then the output of the process 1 will transfer to the process 2 for further processing. For example, like in a car manufacturing, the material of the component of the car manufacturing will be the output in the process 2 for the assembly line. And then in the process 2, the car will be continued for a body and painting. And then the output or the work in progress in the process 2 will be transferred to the process 3 and will be further installed on the accessories of the as a finished goods. So the learning outcomes for the process costing will be discussed on the features of a process costing to distinguish between the normal loss, and abnormal gain. So this is losses occur in the process costing. And then to show the accounting treatment for the normal loss, abnormal gain, and if there is any scrap value. So according to the CIMA is the professional body that governing the management accounting. So the characteristics of process counting, characteristic of the process costing, CIMA definition defines that process costing is a form of operation costing, which applies where standardized goods are produced. All right. So since it is a standardized goods, so usually it's involve large number of relatively homogeneous product produced. Homogeneous means similar product produced. So based on that number of product produced, the average total cost will be computed, includes the finished output and work in progress for each process. And then this average cost of one process is charged as the raw material input cost of the next process. So cost per unit of the final product will be the total cost accumulated in the final process and divided by the output of the period. All right, so sometimes losses may incur in the process costing. So among of the reasons for the losses to be incurred in the process costing are due to number 1, evaporation. So this is due to the natural environment or natural situations that makes losses occur due to the evaporations. Second one is due to the breakage and spoilage, accidental damage, okay, that makes that process breakage. And the third one, when removing for testing and inspection, these losses will be measured by the difference between the input unit and the output units. So usually two types of losses are the normal loss and the abnormal loss. So now we look at what is the normal loss. So normal loss is the losses which are inherent in the production process. So these normal loss are expected losses which we cannot avoid. So whether the operations is very efficient, so this normal loss still occur. So the cost of normal loss is included as part of the cost of good productions. Means that the cost of normal loss will be absorbed as part of the cost of a good production. So the other loss is the abnormal loss. So unlike the normal loss, the abnormal loss is a loss that we never expected to occur, means we can avoid. So this abnormal loss can be avoided if the business, the firm, the manufacturer have a systematic or regular maintenance of their machinery. Because the reasons for the abnormal loss occur, it is due to plant breakdowns, inefficient working, use of inferior quality, or use of the inferior input materials. So this abnormal loss we can avoid provided that the firm or the manufacturer have a regular and good maintenance program for its machinery, have the efficient labor, have the knowledgeable workers, and use the quality and do not use the substance or inferior materials. So this abnormal loss we not consider as an inherent part of the production process. So as such, these abnormal losses are not absorbed into the cost of production. So this abnormal loss is usually treated as a period cost, and it is valued on the same basis as a good productions. At the end of the period, so these abnormal loss are written off in the income statements, and it is treated as the expenses. Okay, so some of the losses, maybe the business or the manufacturer can sell and has a value, which is a scrap value or market value. So this scrap value is defined as the loss with a recoverable value. So the scrap value of normal loss usually is deducted from the cost of input materials. So therefore, to calculate the cost per unit, it should be the total process cost net of scrap value of normal loss, means we should less the scrap value of normal loss, the normal loss unit multiplied by the scrap value per unit and divided by the expected units of output. Okay, sometimes the losses may have a disposal cost. So where the losses have a disposal cost, or the cost may have to be incurred to dispose the losses. So this is happen when the cost of disposal of normal loss is added to the production cost. So the cost of disposals of abnormal loss is not included in the production cost. So it is included in the normal loss account and transferred to the income statement, and at the end will be treated as a period cost and expenses to be write off in the income statement. So, all right, sometimes the business, the manufacturer, the process costing may have the abnormal gains in the process costing. This is due to the operating efficiencies. The actual losses, where the actual losses are less than the normal losses. So if these things happen, so these abnormal gains, we call it as the abnormal gains, are treated as the good production units. And the value of abnormal gain is calculated in the same way as a good production. However, this abnormal gain is removed from the process account and is recorded in a separate account known as the abnormal gain account. At the end of the accounting period, so it is similar with the abnormal losses, where this abnormal gain is treated as a revenue and transferred to the income statements. So if these abnormal gains have a scrap value, so these abnormal gain units will be multiplied with the scrap value per unit, and it will be offsetted against the normal loss. As such, with the abnormal gain, the normal loss will be lesser. So hence the loss of scrap value, which is equivalent to the number of units gained, and the loss of income from the scrap value of normal loss usually is offsetted against the abnormal gain account, makes the value or the cost of normal loss becomes lesser. Alright, so that's the end of the features of process costing, normal loss, and abnormal gain.